How do you start your morning? Charles Manson liked to start his morning rocking out to his favorite song by the Beatles. Remember this song? Although Helter Skelter referred to a children's slide and was a metaphor for the rise and fall of the Roman Empire, Charles Manson interpreted it a little differently.
And on the refrigerator door, written in their blood were the words, Helter Skelter.
Yeah, he thought Paul McCartney was trying to tell him to start a race war. And boy, did he take it seriously.
Believe me, if I started murdering people, there'd be none of you left.
Charles Manson was actually born Charles Miles Maddox on November 12, 1934 in Cincinnati, Ohio, to an unmarried 16-year-old mother. But even though times were tough, according to friends and associates, his mother was a great role model.
She was as motherly looking as my mother was.
But Charlie didn't see it that way.
My mother went to prison for 5 years for strong-arm robbery.
Wait, I'm confused. So, who's telling the truth here? Let's just say it's complicated. But despite their ups and downs, the most important lesson he ever learned came from his mother.
The only thing my mother taught me was that everything she said was a lie. And I learned never to believe anyone about anything.
Regardless of whether his mother was a saint or borderline terrorist, by all accounts, Manson had a pretty typical upbringing.
Some of Manson's outlook on the world came from another uncle, a mountain man.
Now come on, who doesn't have at least one crazy uncle who hates the government, lives off the grid, and stockpiles ammunition for the end of times? Besides, his uncle was full of great advice.
He said, don't go to those schools, boy.
Yeah, I have absolutely no idea where this guy went wrong. I mean, how do you fuck up so badly with life advice like fuck education and don't trust anyone? I know it's hard to believe, but somewhere along the way, that advice, that blueprint for success, well, somehow it backfired.
1944, I went to juvenile hall. I didn't get out till 1954. I got a little girl named Rose, stole some guns, burglarized a store, got a straw hat full of dimes, and came to L.A.
He immediately winds up in prison for forging a check. Now, prison is sometimes, how should I say this? Self-segregated. It's not uncommon for people to enter the system with zero hostility toward other ethnic groups and come out with a burning desire to lead a race war. But aside from that, Manson picked up another skill while behind bars. Yeah, he learned how to fucking shred on the guitar. But considering he was a folk music-loving hippie, minus the peace and love, of course, he learned to play from an unlikely source.
An aging fellow prisoner, the renowned Depression-era gangster, Alvin Creepy Karpis.
Alvin Creepy Karpis? Man, they just don't give out nicknames like they used to, do they? Anyway, eventually, he was released from prison. Let's see. Where do you go when you're a hippie in California in the 1960s?
If you're going to San Francisco.
In the early 60s, Haight-Ashbury was the epicenter of the counterculture movement. Just weed smoke and beautiful hippies as far as the eye could see. But by the mid-60s, something changed. Sure, you'd still see naked people around, but more often than not, it was just a strung-out hobo shooting heroin into his nutsack. Just picture San Francisco today and you'll get the picture.
If you came to San Francisco, you needed to wear a .45 in your belt.
Naturally, Manson felt right at home. He established himself as a guru in San Francisco's Haight-Ashbury district. Somehow, the 5'2" ex-con began to gather a group of young female followers.
Whatever he believed, I would believe, and I would say, and I would spout off.
All your children would come to me because they never had anybody to tell them the truth.
Okay, sure, seducing vulnerable young girls to join your cult is one thing, but how the hell did he get grown men on board?
He would offer them whatever women he had, the ones that would be the most enticing. I mean, he was an excellent pimp.
Oh. Okay. I mean, that makes sense. Yep, that's how he garnered most of his most loyal followers, including All-American Charles Tex Watson. Again, the nicknames. With his family of misfits growing, it was time to leave San Francisco for greener pastures. He quickly discovered that pimping out underage girls came with other perks too. Yeah, it turns out that the Beach Boys also liked fucking.
Round, round, get around, I get around, yeah.
Yeah, Dennis Wilson liked fucking so much that he let Manson and his harem of underage cultists move in with him for a few months. What a Friday night at the Wilson residence looked like is up for debate, but pretty safe to assume it wasn't as wholesome as this.
Well, it's been building up inside of me for
Fuck, that's a good tune though. Anyways, I'm getting off track. Wilson even used his connections in the music industry to hook Manson up with a recording session. His music was so fascinating that after Wilson evicted Manson and some of his 20 female followers from his home, he actually stole some of his music. Naturally, Manson was not too impressed.
I didn't go to them, they came to me. You're stealing my music every day. You're writing my songs, you're playing my game.
And even though he produced some instant cult classics, Manson's music would remain criminally underrated. See what I did there? In August of '68, the family began squatting on Spawn Ranch, an old Western movie set turned riding stable.
It was like summer camp, and Charles Manson was head counselor.
Yeah, you know, the kind of summer camp where the kids engage in drug-fueled orgies with the counselor and learn how to commit murder and blame it on black people.
Sometimes he would reenact the crucifixion when we were on LSD.
Although there's no definitive proof that Manson ever actually killed anyone himself, things really took a turn for the worse when the Love Girl became convinced that he killed a member of the Black Panther Party.
Certain that a giant race war was impending, Charles Manson spent July and early August tense, paranoid, and angry.
And it wasn't long before that paranoia and rage would lead to dire consequences.
On the night of August 9, 1969, actress Sharon Tate, wife of movie director Roman Polanski and 8 months pregnant, was at home with her friends.
Manson instructed Tex to head down to the Polanski place and totally destroy everyone in it as gruesome as you can. And fuck, I'd love to tell you that what happened there that night was just like Tarantino's portrayal in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But unfortunately, it did not go down like that. News of the killing spread around Los Angeles like wildfire. As a celebrity was at the heart of the story, it wasn't long before the rumors began to spread.
The first rumor that hit was that it was drug-related.
All of a sudden, Hollywood's elite thought that maybe having massive piles of coke lying around wasn't such a good idea.
One local in the film business said toilets are flushing all over Beverly Hills. The entire Los Angeles sewer system is stoned.
Soon after, the family was rounded up on charges of auto theft and arson. And it actually seemed like they were going to walk free. But everything changed when Susan Atkins began bragging about the murders to her cellmate. This was the beginning of the end for the Manson family.
The trial of Charles Manson began on June 15, 1970.
The residents of Los Angeles demanded answers, but they were left with even more questions when Manson blamed the murders on a Beatles song. But hey, at least his family of misfits stood by his side throughout the proceedings. What better way to show support for a music buff like Charlie than by singing his greatest hits? Turns out that was just another example of Charlie's powers of persuasion.
The entire proceedings were scripted by Charlie. Every day we'd meet and he'd decide, well, today I want you each to stand up and hold your hands in some stupid symbols. You're going to get up and scream. You know, each day was scripted.
But the girls had minds of their own. It's not like they did everything Manson told them to do.
Manson carved an X into his forehead. The following weekend, the 3 girls followed suit.
Oh, well, eventually they smartened up.
And all of a sudden, he was asking every one of us to lie. And it was like, you lie? A god lies?
But by then, it was way too late.
The jury found each defendant guilty of conspiracy to commit murder and murder in the first degree.
With their futures hanging by a thread, the Manson girls finally snapped out of it and turned their backs on the man who pimped them out for a record deal.
The jury called for the death penalty for all 4 defendants. In protest, the women shaved their heads.
Just kidding. They stood by his side until the very end. But in 1972, the Supreme Court overturned the death penalty and all death sentences were converted to life in prison. Charles Manson died in prison on Sunday, November 19th, 2017. He'd been incarcerated for almost 50 years before passing away from natural causes at the age of 83. So, what do you think? Should McCartney be jailed for life for inciting a race war? Let me know in the comments below. And, of course, don't forget to murder that subscribe button and click that notification bell because I've got new content dropping all the time. And if you just can't get enough, you can also head over and follow us on Instagram and TikTok for even more killer content.